what they believe to be a muzzle sticking through a fence line on the exterior portion of the golf course. They confronted the individual and shots were fired. Of course, we're also seeing this picture as it is going to be out there quite a bit of what they say are an AK style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks, a GoPro as well. So this is the image that they were showing at this press conference of this assassination attempt. They did pursue the individual they believe that is connected to this on I-95. They do have him in custody. They said there was no statement yet from the suspect. All right, let's continue here on Live Now from Fox. Bring into the conversation national security expert Hal Kemper. Hal, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. I know you were just listening into that press conference. They gave some details about the suspect, what the suspect had, the pursuit, and also the threat level. They called it high. What do we make of it? What are the main focal points you saw from that press conference?
Andy, what I saw was the secret. Of course, as you mentioned, the bubble around the former president. In this case, it pushes out maybe 400 or 500 yards. They don't close down the entire golf course, but they push it out to the hole ahead of him. And the Secret Service detected the AK-47, the muzzle pointed through the fence line. What we do know is that the Secret Service took the shooter under fire. What's not clear is if the shooter ever actually fired. It's possible. They said there's going to be more information on that, and I'm sure they have to do some ballistics, look at the weapon to find out if it was fired. But they did take him under fire. He immediately egressed out of the area, got out of there, jumped into his pickup truck, is what it looks like, and his Nissan pickup truck. And it was very fortuitous that there was a witness there that had the presence of mind to take a picture. So you had a picture of the truck, and they had the license plate. And he took off, but because that area around West Palm Beach has what's called ALPERS, the automated license plate reading system. And this is very common around many urban areas, that they have this primarily for auto theft, but they also deal with other types of crimes. But they have this, so it immediately picked it up when he went on the I-95, and they were able to give the next county over the information of what the truck looked like. They were able to send the picture of the whole bit, and they were able to make a traffic stop. And very fortunately, there was, sounds like the traffic stop was without serious incident. In other words, he didn't open fire on them or anything like that. Traffic stops, as anyone in law enforcement will tell you, can be some of the most dangerous enforcement operations out there. This one, fortunately, did not turn into a dangerous operation. They have a lot of details, and it's fascinating to me that the FBI has assessed this was an attempted assassination already. Now, one could make certainly an app based on just a picture of everything you see there. That'd be a logical conclusion. But it's possible that when they took him into custody, he may have said something too, which kind of removed all doubt.
Yeah.
It's interesting how fast they moved on this, but clearly we've gone from a situation where initially there were reports of shots in the vicinity of President Trump. Honestly, shots being fired in southern Florida, not an exceptional sort of thing. That happens, all right? So you can't say that was an assassination attempt. But now it's really got down to, yes, it was clearly somebody was there. And he had an assault rifle, had an AK-47 with a scope. Very interesting combination. AK-47s, just the iron sights, not the best. I know there are some people who love them, but they're not a great long-range weapon, generally speaking. With a scope, you can add a little bit more distance on it, maybe 300, 400 meters, fairly accurate. With the AK-47, because of the type of weapon it is, you could do some rapid fire. So he would probably compensate for the accuracy of the weapon with a lot of firepower, a lot of rounds going downrange. 7.62 caliber. So it's a heavier round than say your 5.56, like you'd see with an AR-15, and that may be a decision based on the Secret Service protection and everything else, that he wanted a round with more stopping capability, more penetration capability. So he was looking at the volume of fire that would be fired. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if those backpacks, they find some extra magazines, and he was planning on engaging them for quite some time. as best he can. Of course, the GoPro, fascinating. The GoPro, we've seen that with other terrorist attacks, specifically the one I think of in New Zealand at Christchurch at the mosque, where the shooter actually did a terrorist attack on the mosque, and he live streamed with a GoPro the entire event. Clearly, based on what we're seeing here, if he had a GoPro there, the thing they're going to look at is, was he planning on live streaming this assassination attempt? And based on what I'm seeing, it's probably a safe inference that was his intent.
Yeah, a very scary, terrifying moment, just as we're getting more details about it, because like you mentioned, the initial report coming in from the Trump campaign that there were gunshots in the vicinity of the former President Donald Trump while he was on the golf course, something he does very, very frequently. Let's talk about that AK-style rifle as well, and the scope. They mentioned the kind of range of that, 300 to 500 yards as well. Maybe how in just kind of layman's terms, how far is that, and what does the Secret Service do kind of knowing the range of some of these weapons that might be out there?
Yeah, 500 yards, you could hit something, certainly with a scope. If you've been out there, you've sighted it in, you got your, as we say, dope on the weapon, and you've done some other things, where you really, you got the correct range, you've compensated for the wind, stuff like that. Yes, you could possibly hit out to 500 yards. I don't know that you'd hit a bullseye out of 500 yards or something like that, but you could put rounds in the definitely in the vicinity of the president and everyone around him. And the thing with the AK-47 though, and we don't know if this one was more likely than not semi-automatic, not fully automatic, although that's very possible. If it was fully automatic though, you're not going to get a long-range shot. Fully automatic, it's just too tough to control the weapon. Semi-automatic though, he could put a significant volume of fire into the area of where the president would be. And that may have been his goal. And of course, with the AK-47, as I mentioned earlier, that's a little bit bigger round. That's a 7.62 millimeter round. That's bigger than what you see with the AR-15, which is normally a 5.56 millimeter round. There's a little bit different philosophy in terms of the U.S. versus the this was essentially a Russian weapon. Initially, I don't know where this one was made, but it originally came from Russia. The thought was that they wanted a heavier round with more stopping power. That's also a consideration, though, when you're looking at a president who's surrounded by Secret Service agents wearing body armor, and that may have been what he was thinking, which is he wanted a heavier round, more. That he was going to compensate for the fact that you got a relatively less accurate weapon than some other weapons out there, but you have a heavier round. That may have been his thinking on that. Of course, I will tell you too, there's a number of folks out there, certainly violent extremists that they love AK-47s, and I always find that rather interesting. I always find it fascinating when someone is anti-government and they're anti and they decry communism at every other turn, and then they say and they love the AK-47. I go, well, if you ever looked at where the weapon actually came from, but you will hear that kind of.
How was this able to happen, and for future reference, is there any obscurity of a golf course?
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery, so when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right, and at this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around him. Well, because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter.
Well, the Ukrainians have a right to fight back.
I don't do paper, though.
I don't care if you do paper or not. I'm looking for revolutionaries. I'm looking for people who want to take this whole system down.
Bro, I'm a veteran. Like, do you need me?
What kind of veteran are you?
Bro, I served in Nuketown.
Well, I think it's better to serve and fight in the powers, fucking over the system.
Bro, give me a Glock and a Hellcat.
Take a look at this.
Bro, but I don't do paper, though. I just told you that.
Dude, then get away. We don't need people who aren't serious. If you're not serious,
I'm serious, but I don't do paper, bro. You're literally killing the environment.
We're moving on. You go ahead, have your lunch.
No, bro, I'm going to class.
Go to
I'm a
class,
scholar.
Then. Go to class.
una delle cose che più mi ha colpito di voi giovani, di questi qui, no? È la capacità del dialogo interreligioso.
One of the things that struck me about all of you here is your ability to engage in interreligious dialogue.
E questo è molto importante.
And this is very important.
Perché se voi incominciate a litigare, la mia religione è più importante della tua, la mia è la vera, la tua non è vera, dove ci porta questo?
Because if we start to fight amongst ourselves and saying, my religion is more important than yours, my religion is true, yours is not, where will that lead us?
Dove?
Where will it lead us?
Qualcuno risponda, dove?
Someone respond. Where would it lead us?
Forte.
La distruzione.
È cosa così. E ci vuole litigare.
Yes, it's okay to discuss and to...
Tutte le religioni sono un cammino per arrivare a Dio.
Because every religion is a way to arrive at God.
Sono, dirò una comparazione, sono come diverse lingue, diversi idiomi per arrivare lì.
Sort of a comparison, an example would be they're sort of like different languages in order to arrive at God.
Ma Dio è Dio per tutti.
But God is God for all.
E come Dio è Dio per tutti, noi siamo tutti figli di Dio.
And if God is God for all, then we're all sons and daughters of God.
Ma il mio Dio è più importante del tuo.
But my God is more important than your God.
È vero quello?
Is that true?
C'è un solo Dio lì. E noi sono idiomi, cammino, lingue per arrivare a Dio.
There's only one God, and each of us is a language, so to speak, in order to arrive at God.
Qualcuno è Sikh, qualcuno musulmano, qualcuno hindi, qualcuno cristiano,
Indo,
ma sono
Christian.
diversi cammini.
There are different paths.
Understood? Ma per il dialogo interreligioso fra i giovani ci vuole coraggio.
In order to have interreligious dialogue among young people, it takes courage.
Hi, Gary Stearman. Time for another Prophecy in the News daily update. This is being recorded on Friday the 27th, and you're in for a treat because in studio with me is author Tom Horn. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Gary. Great to be here again.
And a gentleman you've never met, but you're going to enjoy hearing from him. His name's Chris Putnam. And Chris, welcome to Prophecy in the News.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Gary.
They have worked together, and they have come up with this book. And you're going to be hearing a lot about this book in the near future. In fact, starting right now, Petrus Romanus, the final pope. Tell us about that, Tom.
Yeah, Gary, and first of all, let me preface this by saying it is not hype to say that this is the most important research I've ever personally been involved in. And the prophetic implications of it could be beyond any kind of hype that I'd be able to add to that anyway. It does use a famous Catholic prophecy that's simply called the Prophecy of the Popes. People can look it up on Wikipedia if they want to know more about that. But what makes this prophecy important is that given almost 900 years ago, 1139 or approximately 900 years ago, was published out of the secret archives of the Vatican, right? Brought out and put into a book called Lignum Vitae over 400 years ago. But what does this prophecy do? What does it say? Well, it tells us every pope that would exist from the time of Malachi O'Morgair, so Celestine II, down to the final pope, who it names Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman. And why this pope is important is because, according to the Catholic prophecy, this will be the false prophet of end times fame who will help give rise to the Antichrist.
Now, Tom, in the process of putting this idea together, you became connected with Chris here, in a way that you describe as almost supernatural.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. I knew Chris. I had respect for him already. I had already referred to him in other publications and writings as an apologist and a theologian, a very solid individual. But I happened to be speaking at a conference in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I was sharing with my staff how that I was amazed that nobody had written how that the very next pope, following Benedict XVI, would be the final pope on a 900-year-old Catholic prophecy. I was amazed nobody was writing about it. I was thinking about writing about it, and I went into my hotel room to check my email, and I had an email from Chris Putnam, of all people, asking me about the prophecy of the popes, and we had not discussed this. One thing led to the other. I'm glad that God put Chris Putnam in my path, because this guy is not only a theologian, he is a bloodhound. And the chapter that he writes in this book on a fellow by the name of Rene Thibault, I'll let him tell you about it, that actually connects the coming of Petrus Romanus with the year 2012. That's worth the price of the ticket right there.
Well, Chris, I am looking at page 31 here, and there's a book titled The Mysterious Prophecy of the Popes, the author Rene Thibault, and you came across this, and it opened a certain lock that enabled you to make some connections.
Yeah, absolutely. When we started out to write this book, 2012 was not really on the radar at all. And I was into the research, and I had been reading a lot of the criticisms from various Jesuits and reading their bibliographies of books that had been written about the prophecy. A lot of these come out of Europe or in Italian and French. And I found a book by a Belgian Jesuit and university professor, Rene Thibault, and he believed in the prophecy. Now, he is one of the Jesuits that actually thought it was authentic, and he makes a lot of good arguments for it. But one of the really interesting things that came out of his book is that he found the year 2012 as the final year of the Pope in more than one calculation, like 5 or 6 different anagrams and encryption codes in the Latin text of the prophecy. He detected the year 2012. And the thing that makes that really compelling is that he wrote his book in 1951, then he died in 1952. 2012 wasn't on the radar. There was no hype about the Mayan calendar or any of those things when he wrote this. And he unequivocally predicted the final pope in 2012 based on the Malachi prophecy.
And that's not all. You found a number of other writers, Christian writers in the past, preachers, Bible teachers, who connected this time in which we live right now with some major, amazing events. And it almost raises the hair on the back of your hands to think about all these things coming together in the year 2012. Up to now, it's been the Mayan prophecy. That the Mayan prophecy this, the Mayan prophecy that. This makes that look like nothing at all, I think, in my opinion.
That's true. You know, I looked at some of the beliefs of the reformers and some of the people that held the historicist view of the book of Revelation. Well, the thing that's interesting is that it's all based on when you start the date of a certain sequence of time. And there's prominent Presbyterian pastors in the United States at the turn of the 20th century that believed that the final year was 2012 based on the historicist interpretation. Jonathan Edwards, one of the calculations that he used, lands us right in the time that we're in now. And so it's not just a Catholic prophecy, it's even the Reformers' calculations based on certain interpretations land you right in the same period of time.
Well, you know, I have been a pastor, and I know you've been a pastor, Tom, for many, many years, and we have said the words, Jesus is coming soon. I'm sure that from the pulpit you've proclaimed that. And that you don't say that sort of thing lightly. If you didn't think it was true, you wouldn't say Jesus is coming soon. I believe Jesus is coming soon. We're living in the time. And when something like Petrus Romanus comes along and reminds us about how quickly the clock is moving, that's exciting.
It is exciting, and I think people, once they've read this book, they're going to understand why I've been saying publicly something that I have never said before about any book that I've written, including best-selling books, and that is that this is without doubt the most important research I ever personally have been involved with, because, in fact, I can tell you that when Chris Putnam and I were doing the research, there were 2 or 3 times we stopped in our tracks. Stuff started falling in our laps, from dusty corridors inside universities, lost books, all the way to Dane County, Wisconsin, and the murder of Edward Coons. I mean, people are going to read about stuff in here that they haven't read anywhere else. And when you put the math together behind the probability that this is all chance, it becomes, well, let's just say you'd have to be living on another planet not to know that there is something going on, and it smells supernatural.
Oh, yes. Speaking of lost books, I'm holding a CD-ROM here that has a number of book titles on it, research books, some books difficult to get, some almost impossible, or actually impossible. How many books are on this CD-ROM?
Well, there are 122 files. What you have to remember is that some of those files are whole libraries.
Wow.
There's over 20,000 pages of libraries on this data DVD. There's audio files, there's movies, there's something like 8 hours of radio shows on there. It's just, what we wanted to do was, we knew that the conclusions of this book are so fantastic that we didn't just want people's hair standing on their end. We wanted them to have the research material so they can investigate whether we're telling the truth. And this way they'll be able to do it.
What can I say except buy the book? We're offering it for $19.95, accompanied absolutely free. You get this Petrus Romanus CD-ROM with all those publications, audios, videos on it for your own personal research, $19.95. And by the way, if you'd like to put this together as a package with a year's subscription to Prophecy in the News, the whole package, $42.95 plus shipping and handling. To me, that's an excellent deal. But what I really want you to pay attention to is this book, Petrus Romanus. This book is going to make waves, I guarantee you, in the next 2, 3, 4 months. You're going to be hearing about this book in a lot of different ways and through a lot of different media, and I invite you to get your copy right now so you'll be ahead of the curve. Right, Tom?
Yeah, and the fact that you're giving that DVD away free with the book, just at its normal retail, is probably the best deal I've ever seen. If a person tried to go out and collect all of those files on their own, buy them individually, there's Kindle books on there. It would be hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and it's all there free.
Well, what can I say? I mean, I think you've said it all. And Chris, thanks for being with us today. Always nice to meet a fellow researcher into Bible truth. And I've heard from Tom, and I believe, Tom, you're one of those people who really likes to dig into the scriptures, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the word of life.
It is. And may the Lord speed your work to come, and I can't wait to see what you're going to be doing next.
Thank you very much.
Tom, thanks a lot.
Great to be here, Gary.
Jesus is coming soon. So keep looking up.
They come from over the mountain. Yeah, we'll run right around them. We've got no guns. No, we don't have any weapons. Just a cornmeal and our children. The dust clouds, the dark clouds, but not us, but not us. pay for mistakes with no meaning. All your gifts and all your peace is deceiving. And still I'll pay. Dissolves with believing. That peace comes. That peace comes. That peace comes. That peace comes on. Now that our bones lay buried below us, just like stones pressed into the earth. Well, we ain't known by no one before us, and we begin with this one little bird. That grows on, that grows on, that grows on, that grows on. Crippled crow, say something for our grieving. Where do we go once we start leaving? Well, close that wound, all else keep on bleeding, and change your tune. It's got no meaning. Well,
many miles we walk, the many things we learn, the building of a shrine, only just to burn. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. May the cards lay out astray, all from your command. That's the way it is. That's the way